Let me show you how I made this sparkly shawl so you can make your own. This can be made bigger. Actually, I would have wanted it to be bigger, but I had a flight to catch. My yarn is from Amazon, but only because I wasn't able to source any sparkly yarn in all of my local yarn shops. If you are able to find it somewhere else, please purchase it there because Amazon has terrible working conditions. The yarn I'm using has a yardage of 50 grams being 140 meters and I'm using a 3.5mm hook. The shawl will be made bottom up, so you start at the bottom corner and increase every row until you have the shape and length that you want. Like almost every crochet project, you start with a slip knot. Then you chain 9 and slip stitch into your first chain, which will leave you with a circle. That's your first loop. Chain 8 and turn your work. Place a slip stitch into the loop you just made in the previous row. Chain 5 and place another slip stitch. Since you place an additional loop, so the previous row was 1 loop and now you have 2 loops, that's your first increase. You will increase every time you reach the end of a row, and you chain 8 and you turn your work. Then you start your row with a slip stitch into the loop that's closest to your hook. Then you chain 5 and place a slip stitch into the next loop. And since this was the last loop of this row, I chained 5 again and place another slip stitch, giving me an increase. Chain 8 and turn your work. Place a slip stitch into the closest loop, chain 5, slip stitch into the next, chain 5, slip stitch into the next, and then add an additional loop, so chain 5 again and slip stitch into the last loop to create an increase. So again, you always place 2 loops into your last loop, chain 8 and turn your work. And guys, that's literally all you do until you reach the width and length that you need for your body. I also wrote the steps down in the caption. Remember, this will stretch out when worn and it can be blocked. We're not done yet. Once you have your desired width and length, you can leave it as it is or add a border. As you can see, the last row, so the row at the top, is really stretchy, which I personally didn't want for my intended fit since I wanted it to be longer and less wide. So I added one last row, but instead of the diamond mesh stitch, I did single crochet. I placed 4 single crochet into every loop until I reached the last loop. I placed 3 normal single crochet into the last loop and then placed the last one into the corner of the loop, so into a chain to prevent the stitches from moving around. Then I fastened off my yarn here and I decided to add some tassels. To make the tassels, you just have to cut a lot of your yarn into the same length and then you grab them and loop them through the shawl where you want to place them. I ended up doing 2 strands at the same time, so like double-stranded tassels, which gives you like 4 strands hanging down. And I placed one into every row and that's that.